Good morning, Instagram. We're up nice and early, and this is proof that I wake up nice and early as an entrepreneur, killing it in 2023. I'm up nice and early. Everyone else is sleeping, obviously. Look at me. What's the time like? 3:50 a.m. I wake up every morning at 3:50 a.m. The Alpha Beast is in the house. Hi there, what's up? Big boss, good morning. ADU baby, let's go. You've been up late at night. Me, I just woke up. So everyone who's joined, you cannot claim to be part of the 3:50 a.m. club. Some of you've tried, you attempted the 4 a.m. club, but I'm a member of the 3:50 a.m. club because I just woke up, and because I just woke up, I thought, what better way to start the day than to show up on Instagram Live, take your social media seriously, take advantage of the creator economy, and we're going live with Mr. Alan Baptist. Alan has sent me a request. I have no idea what this live session is going to be about. We may have a debate, who knows? So without further ado, let's add Mr. Alan Baptist. Prikshit is in the house. Good morning, Prikshit. My good friend Rishabh is also here.
Hey,
Hi, Alan.
good morning, Aman. I hope I'm audible, okay?
On my headset. Give me a second, please.
Yeah. We have around 10 viewers early in the morning now.
Telling everyone how both of us are up early in the morning, and everyone should learn from us.
Yep. I was just learning,
Yes.
Studying.
We're great role models.
Yep. So you might be wondering what this is all about early in the morning, right? Us hosting a session together. And I would just want to start by saying that I'm deeply grateful to you for what you're doing for the industry, right? Everything that you're doing, okay, especially I was watching the entire soy breakdown, and while watching that, the only thing that was just running through my head was, again, I would just like to preface this by saying that it's not about those 6 individuals who presented their arguments in favor of soy. What was running constantly through my head was the fact that, it's a video that's so underappreciated, it's going to be so underrated, and in the sense that, of course, people who follow you, they're going to appreciate the video, but sadly, it's not going to be a video that will garner probably 1 million views on YouTube, right? Unfortunately. I wish it did, I wish it does, but it just struck me that we're just living in a time and an age where content that isn't as intellectually sound is what gets appreciated. That's what the sad truth is. And it just got me thinking, and I was like, you know what? We should go live. And the first comment that I made on that video was, especially when I heard that there were people out there, and I'm assuming it's men. There are reasons for me assuming that the contingent of people reporting a video are men, in general, as a general rule, that they would rather hear you out and engage with you than cancel you. And that for me is just something that I find it's just disgraceful, right? It's just atrocious, it's just disgraceful, right? And the reason why I brought masculinity up, as odd as it may seem, at that point is that as men, it is your duty to protect and provide. And in an attempt to protect and provide, you would always do your best to be a better version of yourself, right? You would always be willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good, right? Physically or in any shape or form. And acknowledging that you're in the wrong, or acknowledging that, yes, that an idea that you've held for so long, right, could be flawed, even considering the fact that an idea or a belief that you're holding on for quite some time could be flawed. I think it's truly important. Being a man, I think it's really important for men to accept instead of choosing to cancel, instead of choosing to delete, instead of attempting to deplatform. I think it's just cowardice, trying to cancel people. And that's the reason why I brought masculinity up. It might sound strange. And again, it's not about the 6 people. Someone may try to strawman me and tell me that, I'm trying to emasculate those 6 other. It's not even about them. Right? That's the point. It's not even about them.
Right.
The fact that there are people out there trying to cancel you, it's just shameful, man. It's all I have to say initially.
Alan, thank you so much. Firstly, you're very gracious in accepting the fact that you found the video informative, and you thanked me for my contribution to the industry. I think that's very big of you. It's very difficult for a lot of people to admit my contribution to the industry. I'm not saying I've contributed a lot to the industry, but I do make an attempt here and there. And the fact that you've recognized it, even though we are both professionals, we've had a bit of a rivalry, I'd say, in some capacity. It's really big of you, and I truly appreciate that. And as far as the whole masculinity narrative is concerned, I think the reason why people can, or rather men can get away with not being men is because there aren't consequences of not being men today. We don't have what I like to call roti kapra makan problems. We don't have to worry about, at least most of us, most men don't have to worry about food, shelter, and clothing. And we live in good times, peaceful times. We don't have to be physically capable. And in the age of social media and the creator economy, we don't even have to be cognitively capable to make a buck or two. So we can get away with not being men. And when men can get away with being less of themselves, they'll do it. I think that's how human beings are. That's how living creatures are for the most part. If they don't have to put in the effort, they won't put in the effort.
And correct, right? Like you rightly said, because we're living in a time and age where mediocrity is, appreciated, and sadly, people don't even recognize what expertise is. Anyone coming along, right? And in fact, you don't even have to be that articulate to be considered intelligent anymore. I mean, even those standards have fallen ridiculously low. The main thing that bothered me the most was I sometimes wonder what's happening in schools and colleges, right? What's being taught? Because the people I come across who are graduating from colleges, from universities, it's just bad influence everywhere. And when I say bad influence, I'm talking about most kids these days are being influenced greatly by what they see on social media, right? And they're just learning and being programmed inappropriately. And I use the word programmed here. It's just, we need more people to, if I were to put it this way, right? Let's bring up the whole, the first time he called me out, okay, right, on Facebook. It's not just me, it was me and my brothers, okay, and it was fun. I mean, when he called me out, okay, I appreciated it, because we need people calling other people out respectfully. And if I'm in the wrong, right, or if someone is pointing out a mistake in my thoughts and my beliefs, fair point, man. I mean, I'd accept it. I'll be intellectually honest with me to accept that, right? But it's either a sunk cost problem with other creators because they've just dug into the bottle so deep, into the rabbit hole so deep that maybe admitting, probably they're conscious about the fact that they're in the wrong, but admitting it would probably be bad for business. That could be one reason why they don't admit problems. Number two, it's probably a communication problem. You know, there are many ways in which you can admit that your thoughts were flawed in a gracious way, in a sophisticated way, that in a way that wouldn't cause you to lose your authority, right? But I think it's probably it's the sunk cost problem. It's a communication problem, or it's probably a blend of both, right? That's what I feel. And I want to talk about veganism, especially in my case, that in 2018, 2019, I was exposed to the idea of veganism greatly, and I did get biased in a way back then, right? And us being emotional creatures, we try to find, and of course, for many people also, they don't wish to explore that entire narrative. Okay, even if you try to engage with someone about whether or not we should eat meat, you just get vapid, idiotic responses to justify their reasonings. So even me, man, I was heavily biased when I was a vegan. I would search for justifications to, I would cherry pick research, I would cherry pick arguments to justify my stance. But with time, you know, I upgraded my thoughts on that. And I've always admitted like that, you know, that there were problems with the way I was approaching the entire idea. And yeah, so I think there's probably a communication issue that isn't being addressed. Probably they don't exactly know how to communicate that to their audiences. Because I've been doing fine. When I make mistakes, I'm quite open about it. I'm transparent about the mistakes I make. But it could be either of these two things, sunk cost and the communication problem blended in.
Yeah, I am pretty sure it's more sunk cost than communication because it's not in your best interest to admit that you're wrong or mistaken about something. We live in the creator economy. We live in influencer culture. And in order to become an influencer, in order to become an authority figure, you have to demonstrate authority. And if you keep showing up and you keep admitting that you are wrong and you humble yourself with a far greater frequency than what is expected of a hero figure, of an authority figure, then you run the risk of losing your following, losing your authority, and losing your influence, and then in turn losing a chunk of your bank balance or the potential to add more in your bank balance. So I completely understand why people are hesitant to either engage in arguments or debates. Firstly, arguments and debates are confrontational in nature, so it does take a certain degree of caliber, courage, and moral fiber to engage in confrontational situations. So that's not everyone's cup of tea. Logically, engaging in arguments in real time is again not anyone's cup of tea. And like you very rightly mentioned, I was of the belief once upon a time that being articulate isn't necessary to demonstrate education. But I think there's a pretty strong correlation there. If you're articulate, there's a very high likelihood that you are well educated and you know what you're speaking about. So we don't have to do any of this to claim authority, to claim influence. We can show up, script a reel. Today's standards are the shorter the content pieces, the better. So 1 minute reel can be easily scripted. You can have a nice background. You can throw in your captions, edit everything out. Within an hour, you've got a beautiful reel with the hope that it goes viral. If it doesn't go viral, if it's somewhat well put together, you'll still be able to garner a lot of attention, which then you can monetize. And I just think it's this whole problem is not necessarily a problem. It's just what our current reality demands of us. It doesn't demand us to be articulate or educated or confrontational or courageous. I mean, look at the type of people who are making money today, and a lot of money. They're not remarkable individuals. They are just individuals who identify the creator economy. They know what it takes to make money today, and I think fair play to them. They've done a good job with taking advantage of the creator economy and making money. People who play video games can make money today. They can stream and make a lot of money. So even though it's not ideal, and I think in many regards society will suffer, and I think it is to a large degree suffering right now. It's just how the situation is right now. So I feel all the more reason for individuals who are well put together to distinguish themselves from the rest of the crowd, demonstrate that they are more competent and they are more worth listening to. I feel there are certain individuals who have stood out on social media as well. So the opportunity is there for all of us to make a name for ourselves. And if we recognize that we're more remarkable, then we should take advantage of the creator economy and put out our more remarkable viewpoints and hopefully get more attention and more likes and more subscribers and more money.
That's true,
the
man.
idea.
That's true. We have to recognize the system to understand what rewards us and play accordingly. Right? It's like a simulation that we're in. You just need to identify what aspects of this simulation is rewarding and play accordingly. What deeply concerns me, I want to truly understand your viewpoint on this, is with children today, right? And the current schooling system and the way it is right now. There's a lot to be said about that, right? Because okay, you educate adults, I educate adults as well, and your target audience is, I wouldn't say radically different, but it's definitely vastly different than my target audience. Because, and I would like to spell it out to the crowd, that the students that I teach, they're mostly females, right? And they come from a background of mostly homemakers, and they have this desire in them to learn, right? And when I speak to them and when I engage with them on a regular basis, it just pains me to see, and if I could say this poetically, it just seems to me that the entire education system betrayed them somewhere down the line, right? They didn't really receive the education that they deserved, right? They weren't really offered the tools of critical thinking that they should have been offered, right? And there's a time, I mean, when you're a child and when you're exposed to these tools, as opposed to these tools being exposed later on in your life, your brain is far more developed, right? The ability and the receptive capacity for brain also changes, right? If you're a child, and that's the reason why people have these biases, right? As a child, your brain is a blank slate, right? Anything you feed into it, most people, and that's how religion propagates. That's probably, again, a loaded topic. That, that's how you plant an idea into someone's head. It's an inception that's happening right there, and then as they grow up, the idea germinates and it remains. It's very hard for them to unlearn. And that's what the second discussion that we had, which was live, was about learning and unlearning. And you're correct. I wish there were more teachers where the right tools were given to the students at the right time, and they use those tools to become more proficient. And you wouldn't see mistakes like these mistakes. I mean, the reason why we're having to call out, or you're having to call out 6 individuals, it was really staggering for me to see that something as simple as the theory of evolution. Theory, some people think it's a theory. They think it's a hypothesis for some reason. that there are grown individuals in the world who actually think that dogs were just created, these cats were just created, right? They're not aware about the lineage of where these animals came from. They're not aware about even the cruelty that happens in the animal breeding industry. Completely ignorant, right? And if they had a good teacher, perhaps at a really young age, to guide them, to educate them about these realities, probably they would be decent critical thinkers, and there would be much less for us to call out, so to speak. But with me, when I'm dealing with students, there's just so much that they have to again let go of in terms of what they've studied, right? People thinking homeopathy somehow a superior form. And again, I would like to state I don't really identify with any specific form of medicine, right? Any intervention, it has to be investigated on a case-to-case basis, right? But you can give it any label, right? Whether you call it allopathy, homeopathy, right? The label doesn't matter. It's the intervention that matters. But there's just so much that they have to let go of, right? And I don't even think it's possible at that point, That they've picked up so much wrong in what they studied. It's just unthinkable, the amount that they have to let go of to
I
learn.
disagree. I
Yeah.
feel, see, you brought up children,
Yeah.
and see, it's not a very strong disagreement. I must preface what I'm about to share by stating that I don't strongly disagree here. But you brought up children and why they usually have a blank slate and they are more easily influenced by the world around them. Well, it's worth thinking about what children are. Children are less experienced. They've obviously existed for lesser years on the planet, and they're more easily impressed because everyone they see who's older than them is doing really cool things. Their dad's making money, perhaps mom's also making money, or mom's making awesome food for them, and that cricketer who they follow is running between the wickets and doing all these crazy things which they cannot do. Perhaps their teacher who is very well spoken is impressing them with his command over the English language. Everything is very impressive to them, and because it's so impressive, it's because they don't have those skills and those abilities that they look up to almost anything which, or rather anyone who comes across their scope of influence. Obviously, as we age, we become more capable, and it becomes more difficult for us to be influenced because it's more difficult for us to be impressed. But come on, we've seen this. In fact, very recently, we've seen Andrew Tate take over the internet, and he's cast a magic spell upon everyone to the extent where everyone's asking me, "What do you think about Andrew Tate? I think you're Andrew Tate," and he says it's okay for men to cheat on women. So Aman Duggal, I think even you think it's okay for men to cheat on women. I said, no, I don't think it's okay for men to cheat on women. But that's what people believe, and there's a reason for that. He's a very impressive individual. He's physically capable. He's articulate. He's very well spoken. He's immensely wealthy. He's very good with the opposite sex. He's got a great personality. He's a UFC champion. He's got everything. So when you see someone who's got everything, and he's got this charismatic, polarizing personality, and when he speaks clearly, coherently, and confidently. He's got the world at his fingertips, and he's influencing everyone effortlessly through reels, through these 1-minute reels. So I think we as humans are easily programmable. And I see this happen often. People in their 30s also, who somewhat well put together, well educated, careers on track, they have this midlife crisis, then they come across a monk who spent 15 years in a cave, then came back, started a YouTube channel, and now they're attending this monk's sermons and his seminars and listening to every ounce of nonsense which comes out of his mouth. And they're living life in accordance with the monk's way of living. So I think we are very susceptible to influence. It's just that our standards for influence increase. But as soon as we come across a remarkable individual who has all those qualities and attributes we look up to, who has the riches, the intellect, the women, and the popularity, and the physical and cognitive capabilities far exceeding our own. That's it. We will, in all likelihood, succumb to his influence. And the ones who don't are usually the ones who are very capable themselves, physically, cognitively, they're well spoken, reasonably popular, very secure in how their life has shaped up to, and they're very proud individuals. I like to think of myself as a very proud person. And of course, that's not to say that I cannot be influenced, but I'd like to believe that as far as is possible, I have this very limited circle of influence, which has been built on trust. There's a track record to that circle of influence, and for most things, at least as they apply to my career, I like to spend time in the trenches and come to my own conclusions as far as it's possible, of course.
So, if point well made. So, there are people who would be willing to learn at that age rapidly, provided the criteria that you mentioned was someone superior or someone who's perceived to be superior to who they are. Right?
Yes.
It makes learning more easy then. Because now
Right.
you view this person enchanted by this. Interesting. Again, but still a fallacy in their thinking at the end of the day, because this person can still lead them astray.
I know, and that's why we had this debate, right? I titled the debate, "Is critical thinking a myth?" And I think it is to a very large degree. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much we can think critically about. I mean, it's a very, very difficult endeavor. Like, even for me, to critically think about the literature on the soybean, for example, it takes a long time. I have to scrutinize the evidence, then I have to scrutinize the evidence against my claims, then kind of weigh it out, then trust some of the instincts I've developed over the years of examining the scientific literature. And it's just a painfully slow process because no one else has done it before me. So then the question becomes, can we apply this process to everything in life? Should we think critically about what's the best career choice out there? Should we kind of use the instincts which we've developed? And I feel those instincts should be developed on critical thinking, and they should have a track record of guiding you in the right direction. Like, for example, I have instincts. For example, a lot of times when I do business outside the fitness industry and even within the fitness industry. And when me and my business partner are thinking about collaborating with someone or doing business with someone, we look at certain qualities which that individual possesses, which guides us in deciding whether this person is a trustworthy and capable person to do business with. So I look for qualities which I see in myself or which I see in most well put together people. So one of them is the person in shape. That's the first source of judgment right there. People speak about how you shouldn't be judgmental. I'm the most judgmental person out there, as is my business partner. He's my good friend. And we are judgmental because we have to make good judgment. If you judge the world correctly, if you judge the situation correctly, if you judge people correctly, then people won't surprise you. The world won't surprise you because you've been accurate with your judgments. So we meet people and then we just judge them, scrutinize them inside out You wake up and you go for a run in the morning. Are you someone who takes care of your diet and exercise? Like, we don't ask them this, but you can tell on first meeting whether someone takes care of themselves or not. Are they well spoken? That's a very big sign of career success, at least business success, because a lot with regards to business boils down to your ability to communicate. And that's it. We look for identify problems in their life. If someone's free of problems, free of disease, is doing well for themselves financially, has a good track record, takes care of their health, then we decide to go ahead and do business with them, because it does not guarantee us that this business endeavor will bear fruit, but the likelihood of it bearing fruit increases because you're working with someone who's capable, who's got a good track record. So I think everyone should be taught critical thinking and should use critical thinking and data to set a foundation for most of what they want to do in life. And then through experiencing life and using that data, they should have instincts which should guide their decision making, because then you'll be able to make decisions faster and move forward in life faster. I think critical thinking, for the most part, is a giant waste of time, and we are not capable of doing that to any serious capacity. And one of the things I teach at ADU is, in the critical thinking community, we've got these logical fallacies, right? Like, not the appeal to authority, and you brought up the sunk cost fallacy, and we what are they at the end of the day? They are little hints, they are little instincts which we try and develop, which helps us identify potential problems in a person's arguments. Like, for example, if we identify an appeal to authority, that does not necessarily mean that the argument which the person is presenting, or rather the veracity of the argument, or the veracity of the claims which the person is presenting, it's entirely fallacious. That's a fallacy. But we still use these logical fallacies as these guiding hints to decipher whether this person is worth taking seriously or not. And one of the things which I've identified in the evidence-based community is that they have their own set of fallacies which they're completely blind to. Like, I've come up with a few of them, like an appeal to cherry picking. So cherry picking is a problem. I get it, why it's a problem. But every time someone presents a mountain of evidence against a particular claim, it's just casually dismissed as, oh, he's cherry picking. Like, for example, me, I've admitted openly that when I'm presenting my case against soy, I am deliberately cherry picking. I've said it, but I'm deliberately cherry picking for a reason, because there's so many problems here. I get it. You got your reviews and your metas, which shows that soy isn't problematic. Point noted. I can identify the literature in support for soy consumption. But what about all of this mountain of evidence which completely contradicts your claims? Are we just supposed to throw that away, forget about it, ignore it? So I'm cherry picking for a reason, because I'm presenting a case and I'm trying to highlight how massive the case against soy actually is. And it's just casually dismissed as cherry picking. Well, I call that an appeal to cherry picking, and I think that's a lazy way of claiming to be evidence-based. So I notice I've come up with my own logical fallacies, which I've shared at ADU, and there are a few more. But you see what's happening here, right? In this whole evidence-based industry, this whole evidence-based narrative. We've started trusting these people because it appears that they have a track record of being right. They're well-spoken, they write well, they've demonstrated education by being qualified. But again, it does not guarantee that whatever comes out of their mouth is is correct, but we still choose to put our trust in them, hoping that they'll be correct. And I think that's that's the best we have. We have to identify someone's track record and then decipher, or rather ask ourselves, how often has this gentleman been right? More often than not, it seems. And he's willing to engage with individuals who are trying to disprove his claims. Pretty solid track record. Could he be wrong? Has he been wrong? Oh yeah, that one time he was wrong. He went back on his own word with regards to soy. But he changed his mind. I think I should listen to this gentleman because I've got so many other things to do than to try and figure out who is worth listening to and trying to make sense of the vast literature that's there on soy and everything else which encompasses nutrition and exercise. So we have to find role models. We have to find people worth looking up to. And then we also have to accept the fact that they will be wrong, and hopefully for us, they are not wrong as often as they are right.
Yeah, I mean, excellent point. So I just want to add to that. When you start off by saying that people, and this is just something humorous that I want to infuse here into this conversation, that when people say don't be judgmental or stop being judgmental, or it's wrong to be judgmental, don't they realize that it's a sort of paradox, because you're being judgmental about being judgmental, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. And I think that's a soundbite which propagates the entirety of social media for the most part, and it's like this default truth which people don't challenge anymore, and they think it's virtuous not to be judgmental. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes an individual can make in his life, is to decide not to be judgmental. You have to be judgmental. You have to scrutinize people and test them, and not just scrutinize people, but scrutinize situations and test those situations before you decide to engage with those situations or engage with those people. So it's one of the most foolish sound bites I've ever come across on social media.
And to counter that soundbite, we come up with this fallacy, which I keep talking about when I deliver lectures, is they use this tactic of semantic invasion, where, oh, don't be judgmental, but offer constructive feedback. What's the difference? What is using these words, okay? Doesn't it mean the same thing? That don't be judgmental, offer constructive feedback, or
What they mean to say is don't be harsh, don't be mean, don't be rude. Try to be nice. I get that. I can go with that narrative. I can understand where they're coming from in that regard.
Yeah. So about, let's say, these 6 individuals who, again, they've not yet, and I don't really think, I hope I'm wrong, that they've not even considered perhaps, or maybe they've had an epiphany, but they wouldn't really, publicly announce it. Probably they've had an epiphany about soy and their stance. But let's assume that they've completely disregarded the idea that they could be wrong. Let's assume that for a moment, right? Would you call that a unlearning problem, that they don't have the ability to unlearn, or what would you say that is? What would it boil down?
It's not an unlearning. I don't think it's an unlearning problem, because if there were not, if they did not have consequences to unlearning, they'd unlearn right away. Like, for example, if this was something about a particular topic which didn't fall under their area of expertise, then they'd happily say, oh yeah, we were wrong. Like, for example, let's say it's a political issue, and they chose to support a political figure, and that political figure turned out to be someone they didn't expect him to be. Like, yeah, sorry, we were wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, because they're not experts, they're not journalists, they're not experts in analyzing politics, let's just say that. But in this case, they have a vested interest in nutrition and exercise, and they run a business where they prescribe soy to their clients, and they've been doing so for many, many years. There's just too much to lose. And by the way, you mentioned that you don't know whether 6 of them have had an epiphany. One of them have reached out to me. I won't mention who that person is because he reached out to me privately, and he said, listen, I get what you're trying to do, but I run a business, and this is how we've been doing business for a very long time, and it's become complicated. And these videos are making things complicated. Give me some time to figure it out. Now, I don't think he's going to figure it out. He knows who he is when he watches this video. But he's just too deep into this situation. They built a name for themselves promoting soy and how fitness is not expensive and everything that goes along with it. And for them to come forward and say, listen, we are wrong and it's probably a good idea for you to stop consuming soy, and we may have been misguided. There's too much to lose for them, I feel.
So I have two things to add to that. Right. Number one is just an anecdote of mine that there was once upon a time when I would aggressively call out people. Okay, there was a time Vineet, Vivek, we would all get together, right? That was when you weren't around. Okay, you were probably taking a break. I didn't know about you, right? So it was us, 3 of us. Okay, we would go after people. We would call out authorities on social media, and somewhere down the line, I called out a gentleman named Harry Sandhu, right? And okay, that was years ago. And of course, as you spend time with yourself, as you understand the world better, I realized that perhaps that wasn't the best course of action for me to take back then. Okay, and I reached out to him, and I don't mind saying it publicly again that I was in the wrong. Okay, I shouldn't have when I did, and it was again the whole uselessly chasing after nuance when it wasn't required. Okay, trying to I don't know what was up or what I was thinking. We think again another issue is we think we know what we think we know ourselves, right? But that's something that can be questioned as well. And again, there's nothing wrong in with okay, admitting it publicly, okay, that you made a mistake, and you've done that quite graciously as well. I watched your live session with him. Even you did that quite flawlessly, and it didn't really lead to any major nobody lost their authority status. Maybe for some weirdos who probably thought that okay, that move was it just makes us look like we're weak, right? Us apologizing or accepting that we were in the wrong. I don't think it does, and that's one part. I think communicating it effectively is again something that it can be communicated effectively. You can communicate the fact that you've made mistakes in a way where you still come out looking like a winner, if I can present it that way. And the second is, I just think again, these people, because they've been brainwashed, the entire society at large has just been brainwashed to the point where it's just not considered appropriate to accept a mistake in public anymore. And that is completely the opposite of the scientific endeavor, right? Because the scientific endeavor, it rests on the foundation of trying to find out flaws in any, hypothesis that is proposed, right? And we are open to finding flaws. I mean, the more flaws that are pointed out in a proposed hypothesis, the better it is. It just gets us closer to a much more realer and a better understanding of the world. So again, I think it's also a problem of people lacking scientific temper overall, right? And this is my 2 viewpoints. I think people at large are also a problem, and even communicating it appropriately is what people
Yeah,
lack.
I think I largely agree with what you said here, but I think it's a deeper issue, and it's an issue which boils down to principle. I'd like to believe that I come from a background which has inculcated certain qualities in me, which I haven't respected throughout my life, but an attempt has been made. My father served the Indian Army, and honor is one of the most fundamental codes as far as what makes up the fiber of a soldier. And I don't think I've been honorable for the entirety of my existence. And I think that's largely because I wasn't too secure in myself. And why should I have been secure in myself? I feel you can only be secure if you've got good reason to be secure. So as a man, when will you feel secure? When you're financially secure, you're socially secure, you have a roof over your head, you've got food on the plate, you're physically capable in some way, shape, or form, you have the ability to communicate, you have a personality, you have a reputation, and you come from a place of abundance. The reason I apologized to Harry Sandhu was because I was legitimately in the wrong, because back in the day, I was trying to find holes in his information just for the sake of finding holes in his information, because someone had painted this idea in my mind that he's someone I should go after. And then when I got to know Harry Sandhu better, and I'm not saying I know everything about him, but he did reach out to me and we did interact, and I learned a little bit about who he is as a person and how he looks after himself and his family. I realized that he's far more of a man and he's got his priorities far more intact than I do. And I had a newfound respect for him. And to this very day, a lot of people reach out to me and they ask me, why don't you call out Harry Sandhu? I don't, because I have respect for him, and as a code of honor, as someone I look up to and someone I feel I don't have any obligation towards him, but as someone who indirectly helped me identify something which was very important in my life, I just don't ever want to cross paths with him in that regard, unless we have a tiff, then it's mutual. So that's it for me. And I think when it comes to scientific integrity, it also boils down to honor to a large degree. I am very comfortable coming forward and saying, listen, I did a presentation for Shreyas Kamath back in 2016. I said it was okay to consume soy, and I was wrong. I said a particular thing about Harry Sandhu back in 2016, and I'm wrong, and I publicly apologize for that. And that's how I started my live session with Harry Sandhu. It's not that my authority isn't affected. If Harry and me meet here, and I begin by offering him respect, and I'm offering him an apology, respect is only offered up. Of course, my authority is lowered, but because I come from a place of abundance, I don't mind my authority being lowered, because the consequences to my authority being lowered are not as severe as, let's say, someone whose entire financial resources come from their authoritative persona in the fitness industry. So even when it comes to scientific rigor and scientific integrity, I don't think it's enough to just know the virtues of science and to know the foundational principles upon which the scientific method rests on. You have to come from a place of abundance. You have to be a capable gentleman or a capable woman to know that if you come forward and you state right off the bat that the last 10 years I spent studying HMB was a gigantic waste of time. And I shouldn't have done that, and nothing good came out of it. And all that research which I promoted, showing the positive effects of HMB, they were largely my biases, which were coloring the scope of my research. And I'm sorry, I take it back. You can only do that if you're honorable, and I think you can only be honorable when you're capable and you know that in spite of being honorable and in spite of accepting your mistakes, you will be fine. And unless you reach that place, you'll never be able to accept your mistakes. I will accept anything. And this is a conversation I've had with you, which is why I'm bringing this up. You mentioned how people have tried to cancel me and they've tried to report me. And that's pretty full, which you're absolutely right about. And they've tried to cancel me and report me and get me deplatformed. Why? Because I'm sharing a perspective about soy, which goes against the current evidence-based narrative. It's worse than that. When it comes to me, it's worse than that. This has happened live. And I'll state it, even though the Delhi High Court has asked me not to state it. I'll state it live and I'll save the session. When I was debating Jitendra Choksey, after he found himself in a pickle and he realized that there's nothing better he can do than to cook up lies about me, what did he say? He accused me of being a woman beater. He accused me of being in a mental asylum. And unfortunately, he's not the only one who's tried to cook up these stories or paint this narrative about me, which is absolutely false. Because I'll tell you something. I'll say this here. If I've done wrong by anyone in a personal capacity, please call out my personal life. I have no problem. If any of my exes or any woman I've ever encountered or any person I've ever encountered, a friend, a man or a woman, if I've done wrong by you, you have every right to call me out, and you have every right to call out my personal life. What I find very strange, and I found out recently, is that people to this very day, fitness professionals, when they get together, when they have their team meetings, they sit and they discuss my personal life and they start cooking up stories with regards to an affair I had with a particular girl and maybe I didn't do right by her, and all of them are stories, all of them are lies. And I feel they have nothing better to do than to spread lies and rumors about me, because what else will they do? When your track record is pristine, and I don't just mean to say this because my track record is pristine, or I'm just trying to claim that my track record is pristine. Find dirt on me if you can. And if I do a wrong thing, I'll state it, that I've done a wrong thing. Cool, I'm bearing the consequences of it. But when it comes to me, it's not just trying to deplatform me or trying to report my content, trying to get my videos deleted. It's come down to rumors now. People who I used to share a very good relationship with. I was a teacher figure for many of them. They don't agree with some of my recent claims, so they've all got together and they started cooking lies about me. And I know who these people are. I'll call them out here. Sanket, Jolene, Pranav Kakkar, nutrition codes, people in Calcutta, people in Delhi. I know who you are. If you have a problem with me, if I've done wrong by you, stop cooking up lies about me. Come, confront me in person. I'm absolutely fine with you bringing up my personal life, but don't cook up lies. It's disgraceful. And it's so disgraceful that when these people get together and they're supposed to talk about business. They have nothing better to talk about than my personal life. It's absolutely disgusting. I'll tell you why I've tied this information with being honorable. Because if you're capable and you're honorable and you're secure in yourself, you wouldn't mind a gentleman like myself challenging the belief systems which you held in the fitness industry. And I get it. I'm very confrontational and I'm very aggressive. And I mess with many people's insecurities because that's just how it is. People who are well put together, they are a source of envy and jealousy. So when they are not left with anything better to attack me with, when they know they can't confront me in an educational setting, in an intellectual setting, they start cooking up lies. And I see this happen in the scientific landscape as well. When a researcher is pushed into a corner, he knows the virtues of science, but he cannot honor the virtues of science because he's not capable enough. So that's why my business partner and me, we look for capable, honorable, good people to do business with. And that's why we are so judgmental about the type of people we associate with. Because people who aren't capable, who aren't moving forward in life, they'll drop to the lowest of lows. And some of the people who a lot of my followers look up to in this Indian fitness industry, there have been some of the greatest disappointments of late. So I just wanted to share that, and it's something I've been meaning to get off my chest for a long time. And because you're here and because we've had discussions of this nature, I thought I'll bring it up.
Man, I love you, man. I'm saying it. No homo. I love you. Right? And there's so much that's happened, and I wouldn't say I relate. Obviously, I can't. That's been your journey. But many people ask me to this day that, and apparently I've signed legal papers as well. I can't talk about this, right? Many people ask me, why did I leave NFNA? What was the reason behind me leaving NFNA? Why? It's the foundation that I and Vineet created. Okay, what happened? Right? You all were the first evidence-based academy in India. What exactly happened? Right? Why did you step out? Why did the other founders? What exactly happened? And boils down to precisely what you said, right? That when you're with a group of people who are incompetent, when you surround yourself with a bunch of people, right, that lack honor, right, who would do anything, who would literally do anything just for money, because that's what matters. Because when you're incapable, right, like you said, I could walk out because I consider myself fairly capable, right? I can fend for myself, and my background in academia isn't just fitness and nutrition. It's mainly been finance, it's been taxation. I teach children math, class 11, 12, right? Calculus. I mean, I'm fairly capable. I teach English to students. So I'm not limited to just simply teaching fitness and nutrition concepts to people and critical thinking. I consider myself fairly capable in most realms, if not all. And when I decided to step out, and it was deeply inspired by, okay, let's put it out there. We all pilot, okay? There's no hiding it, okay? And that's how it's been in India, okay? It's just ingrained in us, right? Whether it's ethical, unethical, it could be debated, right? There's a huge debate surrounding that as well, okay? So we all pilot.
Alan, I'm sorry to cut you off. We got about 10 seconds remaining. I'm going to start another session and we'll continue.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I've saved part one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch part one. With the remaining parts, I believe this will be part two and the final part. And hopefully Alan will join us soon. I'll stitch these parts together and upload them on YouTube because this has been a fairly interesting discussion. Let me send Alan a request. This has been a fairly interesting discussion early in the morning. And Mr. Alan is back.
Hey, what's up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so where was I? Okay. So we've all been guilty, if I could say that within inverted commas. We've all been guilty of pirating, okay? And that's how it works here, right? Reverse engineering is what they call it. You pick up someone else's content, copy it, rephrase it a bit, right? Change up the sentence structure and build a course. That's how it works here in the industry. Okay. So that's how it had been working for quite some time, right? Even when NFNA had been established, right? We went with the best information that we had. Okay, back then is what we considered best, right? So Vineet had studied the MNU course, right? I had studied a bit of precision nutrition. I picked up a book on nutrition, college level nutrition that they teach at CU, Calcutta University. Picked up a few books. And again, like you said, it's truly important to be articulate. And when you say articulate, it also includes the capacity to read well, right? Because I'm assuming if you can speak well, you can also read well. And if you have the ability to read well, no matter which field you're from, okay, even if you have a limited background or limited understanding of that, if you can read well, okay, your ability to grasp concepts is far more quicker, right? You can grab onto concepts really, really quickly. So despite me having a fine academic background in finance, okay, and I would give myself some credit, I'm fairly intelligent, is what I would say, right? Not being narcissistic here, it's just a reality. So okay, few nutrition concepts is what I picked up. All right, this is the evidence-based narrative. Let's go with that. And the way the course structure was, we had a foundation. Okay, this is what the authorities, right, in the world, and who are the authorities in the world? The white people, right? It's a colonial hangover that's still on, and I'm glad you're breaking it. And we need more people to break that, okay? Because Indians are capable. There's a lot that we can offer, but unfortunately, they're good at marketing, right? And it's a shame. It's a bloody shame that even in the life that we're holding, we're having to speak in a language that's foreign to us. Let's put it that way, right? That if we speak in Hindi, we won't really be viewed as the authority figures that we are, right? Even when I teach, I get rapid, and I appreciate those compliments, okay? That, oh, you're so well spoken, you speak English so well, right? As if that's like some sort of reflection of how much of the subject I truly understand. But it's a shame that, it's another fallacy, I would say. The spoken English fallacy. Someone speaks well, right? They must be considered competent. So that's how we would operate, Pick up, okay, there's a new course that's been launched, let's take a look at what's being taught. If there's some new value addition that exists, we'll probably incorporate that into our curriculum. It's an easy way out. And deep down inside, it was always my vision. I felt that the problem is deeper. It's not just about nutrition. The problem is with the way people think. It's a problem with the way personalities are being shaped in the world, right? Just me fixing the nutrition knowledge, the fitness knowledge, it doesn't really solve the larger issue. I would say that in the last slide where you mentioned that it has been my greatest endeavor to teach people to question, to teach people to think critically, to teach people to question me. But I've really encountered a student who's actually decided, to go up against arms in a way and question what I've taught to them, right? It seems like they're incapable of that for some reason. So for the longest of time, this is the trend that we would go with, find a new course, see what they're teaching, incorporate that into your curriculum, and here comes ADU. Okay. ADU, there's this guy who calls me out, right? And who is this guy? He's calling me out. And who do I know who knows you, right? I know people who know you. Supposed close friend of mine. You've already named him. There's no need for me to name him. And I get to hear negative things about you, right? All right. But me being skeptical, whether it's positive, negative, right? I reserved my judgment, obviously. And when you called me out, my brothers went all in, okay? I just simply stood back and trolled and I stepped away, okay? Because I realized I was suspicious about the fact that what I was being taught by the Western world, in the world of fitness and nutrition, it's superficial. Because I have spent years as an academician studying finance, studying taxation. If you want a deep understanding of accounts, if you want a deep understanding of taxation, man, there's a lot you have to study, right? You don't get that knowledge or an in-depth level of understanding of how these concepts work by simply doing a certification, by simply doing a diploma. That's how the current trend is, right? Do a certification, do a diploma, now you're competent enough to advise people on what they eat, right? Something that people do daily that impacts their health. So here you come along, call us out, and I was always suspicious. I must mention that, right? That somewhere down the line, superficial education was being imparted, okay, and something needs to be done about it, right? And I'm like, okay, probably you're a pretender, right? Probably, right? Why should I just because you speak well, right? You seem competent, but as I glance through your social media, there's nothing informative that's been shared up till now. I'm talking about calling people out, you're heckling them, okay, and I'm trying to scrutinize, okay, is there any information that this guy has to offer, right? Is he what is he offering? Where is the knowledge that this person claims to possess? I can't find it. So I have to go deeper, okay? So obviously we have common students, right? And few of my students, of course, they're your students. And I was like, okay, all right, you're learning from Aman, so I would like to see what he's teaching, all right? Let me take a look at what exactly is he teaching, right? And how is this even scalable is what I'm trying to grasp my head around. How? Because here we are, and this is my worldview back then, okay? Here we are, this is our 50th batch in nutrition that we're teaching, right? We have a curriculum that we're running. This individual, this gentleman, seems remarkable. One batch and what? 60 lectures? Is that where you're at? Okay, what's happening? This is something that's remarkably new, okay? This is something that whatever this guy is doing, there's something different. Let me inspect, okay? And then I go in, I take an off from work, okay? And like, I make a reason up at NF and I said, look, sometimes you have to lie, okay? Being honest all the time, I'm like, I just, and it's not even a lie, I need time for myself. I'm not that well, okay? So I take an off, plug in an IDM, log into a Facebook account to inspect what it is that you teach. And I'm glad I discovered your content. I'm glad I did as an academician. And I think that is the kind of education that the world needs at large, right? That students don't just need education about the core subjects that they're expected to be proficient in. There's so much about the reality of the world that they have to learn, right? And it was just the vicious cycle that you helped me break. Where I could just relate that not taking care of myself, where I'd become so selfless for my students, right? All I was doing was just Okay, I have a doubt. Okay, I'm responding. I'm offering them material, helping them think critically, and that wasn't happening either, right? In the process, I lost myself. Right? What was I doing with my life? And that was the education that I had envisioned is what I wish to provide. And great, I mean, you beat me to the race, okay? And I was so proud to see that something like this exists and it's from India. Mm, and I'm grateful, because even if, and I keep telling my cousins, they're not even from the field, right? I tell them that, look, you should probably watch these lectures, it's not even related to fitness and nutrition. These are things that you should all be aware about, taking care of yourself, thinking. Fallacies is something that I taught and you taught as well, right? But the whole module about taking care of yourself, learning how to be excellent communicators, right? And the fact that it wasn't a scalable model. I mean, I mean no disrespect by that. By scalable, I mean where it was still successful, extremely successful, one of a kind, right? But when I mentioned this to most people, they're like, "Ah, it's not scalable," right? And I'm like, "I'm sure he knows that, right? And he has plans. Probably we're not aware about it. He definitely has plans. But the fact that this man has dedicated his heart and soul into going all out, right? Where he just put in so much of effort, right? That is something that we should all learn from. Right? This man has been selfless. Okay, his avatar or the personality he has on social media. Most people, some of my students are like, so why do you even engage with Aman Duggal? Why? Because you're this guy, Alan Baptist, sweet, nice, people open up to you, right? Good conversationalist. I've never been arrogant with anyone. Even if I've had to put out a point, I've been very, very careful about my selection of words. People call me a master at being politically correct, and I think, okay, that's a skill I have. It's a useful skill. And people tell me that why this guy? Why do you associate with him? Because he's on the opposite spectrum of you. If he has to say something, he says he cusses out loud on his live, right? What if your students find him, right? What will they think of you? And I'm like, look, man, there are that's the thing, because your focus is in the wrong place. Look at what the man can teach you. Look at what there's to learn. Okay, there could be many things that I disagree with you. Okay, and we can always have a conversation about that. But what I want people to understand, and that is the whole point of this, is there's just so much to learn. If we just focused on what a man has to offer in terms of teaching, and probably people view other. It's a shame, man. When they view another professional, the first thing, their first problem, and it's a good tactic. That's how it works. Unfortunately, that's how the world is. Right? Call this guy out. We'll get famous probably, or we'll get a few views. We'll build our authority. Okay, call this guy out. Right? The last thing that strikes them is, okay, let's learn what he has to teach first, and then call. I'm not against calling someone out, but why have it just one way? Right? Why not learn? Okay, criticize the guy. Criticize him as much as you want. But why wouldn't you learn from him? If he has something valuable to teach you, why would you deny that? Right? That means you're not being rational at that point. It's again your emotions driving you. If you were truly a rational person, as many people claim to believe that, oh, we are critical thinkers, we're rational, that's what we teach. But you're not being rational when you cancel a person entirely just because you disagree with some portion of what they say. Right? I may disagree with many of your methods. But if someone asked me about you, I'd be like, okay, there's a lot that this man teaches. Absolutely, there are certain things that we may disagree with. We can save that up for a later conversation after we've exhausted our mental efforts into learning from this guy and understanding what he has to teach. So that's a bit of a background. And when I went through all of your lectures, there was so much that should have been taught in a certain way that wasn't being taught, right? And I realized that I'm doing a great disservice to my students. All right, the money's great, the fame is good, right? But I'm just caught up in this mess in a partnership with two other people who don't share the same vision as me. And had it been someone else, they would have succumbed to the sunk cost. It was a big decision to move out. There's a lot of drama, legal drama that happened. Oh, you can't talk about NFNA publicly. One of the most stupidest things I've heard, and I'll say it live. I'm not even allowed to. There's a contract right here on my table. It means nothing. It means jack shit. Okay? People here writing long contracts about, oh, you can't say this, you can't talk about that. And had it been someone who didn't really understand how the world works, they would be easily intimidated by all of this, right? But and that's what I feel, because there are people, evil people out there in the world who will use all these gimmicks to threaten you, to silence you, right? And I think many people should be taught, especially children, right, about how to stand up against people who deploy these cheap tactics to silence you, right? Because there have been people who've tried to censor me, right? Because I stepped out, they realized that with me stepping out, a lot of students would flock to me, because I was the name, Vineet was the name, we were the educators. But with us stepping out, oh, we need to sign a non-compete, which I denied flatly, right? The friends I expected who would stand up for me, my friends, right? They didn't stand up for me. And okay, I was surprised when that happened, because I had certain expectations. But it's a great learning, because by that time I had learned to be capable. There's a bunch of stuff. I mean, I was aware, but low-key when I saw you putting in that effort, you mentioning that you, again, like I said, accepting that the first module where there was a lot of talk about you, accepting the fact that you were depressed. And it takes a lot of courage to say that, man. Most people can't. They can't say it. Right? Even me saying I love you live, many people will be like, okay, this guy's going crazy. Because these people are weak, people are weak. And I was a bit surprised to see that people who I expected would stand up for me, take a stand for me at that point, because there were a lot of unfair things that took place against me. And I didn't really want to go public about it. Like, probably, I mean, that's your approach, right? That's an approach you take, however calculated it may be. I was like, that's not the kind of guy I am. Let it slide. I'm capable. Okay, it's a hit. Doesn't matter, right? I know I'm doing something good. And even the day I signed all those papers, the first person I called was you. I messaged you. I said, there's some good news. It wasn't good news. I mean, it was terrible news, but I was still happy, right? There's a large sum of money I lost, but that's all right. I earned it back again. I did send you screenshots, right? I earned it all back again in a month, right? But it was just shocking, to see that people will try to cancel you, right? People will cancel you. People will try to deplatform you. And yeah, I just got a bit emotional when I saw the video. It is not about the soil. The fact that people out there trying to deplatform, what issue do you have? If you have an issue, speak, right? Talk, communicate. That's all you've been asking for, right? Even in your debates, probably okay, you're doing it a bit aggressively, right? Let's put it that way. But it's an invitation for a conversation. And kind of world that we're living in, that people have just lost the art of having a conversation. And I keep telling people, no matter how difficult it is, have a conversation, sort it out, right? Okay, I won't go to the extent of, that would be a hyperbole fallacy that, anything can be sorted out through a conversation. That's not true. But most things can be sorted out through a fruitful conversation. That's the thing, and I called you up and I was like, this guy is doing something great, and that's why I disassociated. I set up my own academy, just me, right? And again, it won't even be just limited to nutrition and fitness. It's going to be a bunch of stuff, right, that I teach, from English to finance to whatever I wanted to teach, but I have full freedom, okay? And that's the thing, man. You want to associate with people, but they just backstab you when the time comes, and that's what's so shocking, right? The people I have trained people to be faculty members, right? I have mentored them. They've had their own skills. I'm not taking full credit of who they are today and whatever they're doing. It's their hard work as well. But people I've mentored, haven't really come forward to support me. In fact, just because, like you said, because there was a financial, they had a lot of money at stake. Because if they, let's say they had the integrity, I'm going to give them the benefit of doubt here, live. Let's say they had the integrity in their hearts to stand up against the unfair treatment of their colleague. Not exactly their colleague, I would be in the hierarchy, their senior, but all right, we'll give them that. Their colleague, the unfair treatment of their colleagues. They still couldn't, you know why? And like you said correctly, because they are incapable of fending for themselves outside of that structure. And like you said, maybe in their hearts, they did probably want to stand up for my honor, but they lack the capability to. I'm just assuming, right? I'm being overly optimistic. I don't think that's the case, right? I think they're just biased and they lack the ability to think critically. I'm not even attributing a malicious intent. I'm just saying that they're a bit incapable of thinking critically. Okay? I'm being a bit benign. But even assuming if they did want to defend my honor, like you said, man, just because they're incapable of fending for their own, it's just in their best interest to stay within their organization and desert a friend. Shameful times, man. And that's why I said, that's why I brought up masculinity, right? There is an element of it in it because as a man, you would have the ability to protect yourself and stand up for someone whom you call a friend, right? Today, I'm here live. I know a lot of people will come out and say, and I have a good reason for it. Why this guy? Again, he's so arrogant. Well, that's your perception, but there's good reason for it. And before you cast an assumption as to why did you take some time out and think? There's so many layers to it that you're probably not aware about. Okay, so I get it, man. When you called out these names, I've been there, right? Not in a similar way, of course, and not to a similar degree. Thankfully, not. But yeah. And you're doing fantastic work with whatever you do. No matter what people come and say that, oh, it's not something that's scalable. Probably never was meant to be. That's as good as it gets, given the resources this man has. And you should be grateful instead of whining and complaining about, oh, I get students. There's no workbook. There's no receipt that is sent after the fee is paid. So unprofessional. There is no exam that are taken on an LMS. I'm like, look, man, I've done that. Ask me. I've run an organization similarly. And Aman probably did also. He had Alpha Raj, right? And probably didn't work out well. He'd know the reasons why. But whatever he's doing in his limited capacity, that's more than anyone can offer at this point. And that's what he should take, right? So that's the thing, man. I feel you. Right? I feel you.
You shared a lot there. You obviously spoken your heart out, and I appreciate you for doing that. Couple of things. I want to speak about something important, but before that, I'm well aware of the criticisms which are directed towards me. They're childish. LMS and receipts. By the way, I'll gladly hand over receipts if they are ever asked for with a proper GST invoice because I do pay GST. A handsome amount, by the way. As far as scalability is concerned, I don't know many fitness professionals who do as well as me financially in the fitness industry. So I don't think people who haven't scaled anything should speak about scalability. Or of course, they can speak about scalability. But at the end of the day, see, I am a businessman and numbers do speak loudest. So if you ever want to know my numbers, you can always come forward. I have this one condition though. I will gladly share my numbers if you share yours. That's the game. Speaking about exams though, last year, 70 students gave their exams at ADU, out of which only 15 passed. I've not made this public up until now. 15 students passed out of 70. Each and every single one of those exams was conducted by me personally, individually, with every single student. And every single one of those exams lasted on average 2 hours. That's about 140 hours of my personal time, which I've invested towards exams alone. So as far as examinations are concerned, I don't think anyone's got a more robust examination procedure than I do. And that's because I care about the examination procedure, unlike having a bunch of MCQs on an LMS. By the way, I'll eventually have an LMS too, but I'll make sure it's done my way. Having said that though, that aside, I mentor a lot of people, and I help a lot of people not just with their nutrition and exercise. I guide a lot of people through business, through relationships, through problematic friendships and family dynamics. And I was once accused of using Doc Duggal as my username because people assume that I'm claiming to be a doctor because my username is Doc Duggal. I never claimed to be a doctor, but since people continued bringing that up, I eventually decided that if I have to be a doctor, then I'll be a psychiatrist. Because after spending so much time helping people, I've learned a thing or two about how people think. And of course, that's also backed up by a little reading I do about things I'm interested in. And I'm interested in understanding how the human mind works. And one of the things which people always bring up when I'm counseling them or when they feel hurt or they feel betrayed. And of course, I've been betrayed just like you have. Both Sanket and Jolene are two individuals who have helped immensely. Ask anyone in my circle, ask anyone who knows Jolene and me, how much I've done for Jolene Fernandez. She knows it. She's just bitter because we're not together anymore. And I don't speak her name in vain. I have nothing against her. We shared what we shared, and it ended. That's it. The fact that she still speaks my name in vain, in spite of everything that I've done for her, is disgraceful. Sanket, there would be no Element Nutrition if it wasn't for me. I helped you set up Element Nutrition while you were working for me. But it's okay. You want to speak my name in vain? You want to cook up lies about me? You want to spread rumors? The best you have is to spread rumors, because you can never bring that information to my face, because I can challenge Sanket, Jolene, Pranav Kakkar to bring these revelations live on Instagram. Share them. Don't even take me by surprise. Don't even bring them up on call. Let's see what you have. Let's see what your evidence is. All stories, all lies, which are enjoyed by teams apparently, which should be discussing nutrition and exercise during their team meetings, but they have nothing better to discuss than Aman Duggal. Okay, but I've been betrayed, and a lot of people experience betrayal, and they're taken by surprise. And one of the things which they bring up is, or rather the main highlight which they bring up about betrayal is, I did everything for this person. I helped this person. I taught this person. I mentored this person. I went out of my way to help this person. And I'm so surprised. The most painful, surprising, and most shocking betrayal came from this person. And not just any betrayal, it's a sizable betrayal. And I tell them it's not shocking. There's a reason why the people you help the most are the ones who have the greatest likelihood to betray you. And that reason is very simple. As human beings, as individuals, we all have egos. We all have this sense of autonomy. We feel like we are responsible for the good things that come our way, and we are not responsible for the negatives that happen in our life. We want to take responsibility for our successes, but we want to blame other people for our failures. The problem is when we want to take responsibility for our successes, for the fact that we moved so far forward in life, but the reality that we wouldn't have moved so far forward in life if it wasn't for the guidance of this gentleman who shared everything with us, who taught me everything, who taught me business, who taught me how to live life, how to conduct myself, how to speak, nutrition, exercise, everything. That is a painful reality to accept. And because it's a painful reality to accept, you're always looking for ways to shift the credit, which in your heart of hearts goes to this person who has mentored you, to yourself. You want to shift that credit to yourself, so you hunt, so you wait, so you look for openings, you look for errors, mistakes which this person may make, which you can then use to dissociate from this person. And if that doesn't work, start cooking up stories which you may have heard, manufacture a defect in this person's personality, so that you can claim that all the good things that have happened to you are not a result of this person's mentorship. Because this person does not need you. You needed them once upon a time. And our emotional selves want us to feel that they should want us just as much as we want them, and they should need us just as much as we once needed them. That is the reason why children betray their parents, and parents betray each other, and brothers betray brothers, and mentees betray their mentors. And the greatest empires have fallen because of betrayal. I am never surprised by betrayal. In fact, I know exactly who to expect betrayal from, which is why I say judgment is one of the finest skills which you can develop. And you can only develop this skill not by virtue of thinking critically, because that's too slow of a process. It's by virtue of living life. And the virtue of examining the past, which is what life paints. The best way to learn how human beings work is to study what just transpired as far as that exchange with the human being is concerned, or what happened in that situation. Why did that person react a particular way? And most of us already know that. We know we are all capable of envy. We know we are all capable of being jealous. We know we are all capable of doing things which we cannot claim pride in. And when we started speaking, you said that we think we know ourselves when we really don't. And that's true. The reason we don't know ourselves is because we do not make an attempt to know other people, because we're just like other people. That's why it's so important to be judgmental. That's why the first thing I do as soon as I come across someone is to size them up, find out where they are in life and who they are as a person, and how much I can trust them and how much I can't. I identify qualities and attributes, and I'm not saying I'm the best at it. I identify insecurities, and then I take a step back and I see them in myself, either in my former self, or my current self, or in my future self, because there's no bulletproof vest which an individual wears. It's not to say that, okay, I'm this person today, I will be this person tomorrow. I may be a better version of this person tomorrow, or I may be a worse version of this person tomorrow. All depends on how I choose to live my life. If I choose to live my life in accordance with the good lessons I've learned, great. If I go the other direction, and there are many directions to venture into, life goes backwards as well. So that's it. You should expect betrayal from the people you've held the most, because they can never accept that they were helped to a magnitude which they couldn't help themselves. That's a very painful realization. It pierces the ego, and that's why I don't go out of my way to help people unless they have demonstrated that they're worth helping. In fact, when you help people less, they tend to respect you more. That's why I make an attempt to be exclusive. It's not just about looking after myself, taking care of myself. It's about conducting yourself with respect, and when you act that way, other people also respect you.
This behavior that you defined, I mean, it's pretty ubiquitous. Is this something that you think can change? Is it just, is it nurture or is it nature? I mean, I sometimes catch myself wondering that, because I'll tell you this. I don't mind announcing to the world, okay, even when I declared and I'm starting up my new academy, right, and I gave you credit on my Facebook post. A lot of people question that decision. Why would you do that, right? Wouldn't that sabotage your image as the authority figure that you are? You cater to so many students, right? Why give this individual? It's your own accomplishment. It's all right, okay. Even about that, there's a lot to unpack. When people say it's your own, there have been factors that have influenced you to get to this point. It's not entirely you, right? Even if it's something completely, as much as someone would like to believe that this endeavor of mine is entirely mine, there have been people who have influenced you in some shape, in some way, or some form, to the point where the thought arrives in your head, okay, and you've taken action. It's been influence at some degree or the other, right? It's not like you popped out of your mom's womb with that idea, okay? And okay, I'm going to do this. It's some influence that has happened by someone or in some shape. And number one, you need to have the brains to acknowledge that. Number two, you need to have the moral fiber to accept it publicly. That's the second step. And the third is you go ahead with whatever you've done. So again, a lot of people questioning me that, oh, it's your own, or why give credit? It's your own. And again, I just felt that it's the truth. All right? It's the bloody truth. Okay? Whatever perception you might derive from it, okay? Oh, is he your guru? Why would someone who's influenced you in a way? There's a critical, again, there's another fallacy here that, okay, if you're giving someone even a shred of credit, right? And you can't even express the amount of credit in words, right? If you're giving someone a shred of credit, right, people assume that, oh, this is someone who's your guru, why give him credit, why acknowledge him, right? Why give him that limelight? It's all yours. Number one, that's a fallacy. Nothing ever truly, I mean, in most cases, could be something of your own. It's something that has been influenced. You watch something, you've consumed something, and it has led to this point in your life where you've taken that decision. And I'm the kind of person, and this is absolutely rare. You'll accept that. It's absolutely rare. But I'm like, okay, this guy has influenced me in some positive way. I went in there with the intention of understanding who he is, and I've just emerged as a better person. Did he teach me something radically new that I wasn't aware about? Not really. Did he reinforce some of the latent ideas I had about myself, which I was ignoring due to the circumstances I found myself in life? Yes, he reinforced those thoughts, and it led to a decision. It's him. I mean, okay, there's a causation here that I can point to. Okay, and I'm going to acknowledge that publicly. I don't get, and like you described, many people they would like to dissociate. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You've never really mentored me actively, right? Okay, it's just been me watching some of your snippets. Okay, here there, some of your content. I'm like, yeah, this guy is good, and he deserves to be acknowledged for it because it's the truth. Like that's what science is. It's the truth. Even no matter how uncomfortable it is the truth. No matter how uncomfortable the thought of the theory of evolution makes you, it is the truth. Okay, can't change that. You can't deny it. You can't deny it, but you would be intellectually bankrupt to do so. Okay, and again, it's the whole method. Okay, this guy's done something. It's a reality. We're gonna accept it. Maybe it's not something I'm comfortable with, but okay. But that is the truth. I think it also boils down to speaking the truth as well. I mean, why would you deny a reality? Why? Okay, it pierces your ego, it hurts you, right? But if you're someone who claims to be all about the science, right? And when the science aligns with the truth, when it reminds me of again the debate you had with Dr. Abbey. When there's conflict, you're all about the science when the science is against you, right? Isn't it? You're all about the science, but when science is against you, you don't wish to accept it. You're all about the truth when the truth is against you, right? So I think it's all about upholding the truth no matter how uncomfortable it is. Obviously, me mentioning that, okay, Aman Duggal, okay, that's a guy I've learned something, a thing or two from, right? I mean, I have no problem accepting it, but I have people around me having issues with accepting that. And I think that is also something that we should be teaching children to, that there's nothing wrong in accepting that you've learned stuff from someone. Everyone learns stuff from other people, right? You probably learned a thing or two from Mr. Jeffrey Fudge. I also did. There's nothing wrong in accepting that you have learned stuff. Okay, maybe that's the whole problem, right? At a grassroots level, if kids are taught this, right, there's nothing. I think there's something going wrong with with whatever they're consuming off late on social media. If kids could be taught that, right, then people wouldn't be so fearful of accepting or acknowledging. I think there's something, some programming, if I can use that word, that's gone wrong. Okay, probably just picked it up. Your explanation being correct as well. It's they would like to distance themselves from you. But another idea is that this is not something that has been taught to them, right? It's not something that we see people doing freely, and that's why I wish to do it as freely as I can. Probably it might inspire whoever's watching. That there's nothing wrong, man, right? And that's how you make a change.
Yeah, Alan, see, but this is a well-studied phenomenon.
Exactly.
It's the idea that you can give credit to someone who you've learned a thing or two from. It's far more comforting than giving someone credit for something which, or rather not something, but for everything. Try and understand the consequences of accepting to yourself that you owe someone everything. That's why you see betrayal amongst individuals where someone has done something, rather someone's done everything for this person and they are left in complete shock. The reason for that is, let's take your example. You learned a thing or two, but you know you're fairly capable and you can figure out most of the world yourself, and you made pretty good decisions by virtue of your own cognitive faculties. That's pretty reassuring. You know that you're capable. You made decisions, you thought about them, and those decisions have yielded good results. Take, for example, someone, the typical millennial who's been playing video games and rebelling all his life. And life's going south, 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 drug addiction, everything south. And they've tried to make sense of the world themselves. They've tried to critically think, and they've just landed themselves into one pickle after another. And then someone comes along, grabs them by the hand, turns their reality upside down, and says, listen to me and follow these footsteps. And you'll move forward. And you actually start moving forward. In fact, you don't just start moving forward in a thing or two. You start moving forward in all aspects of life, all important aspects of life: fitness, finance, relationships, communication, education. And now you owe your entire life to this person, which also means that this is the person who made you capable, which also means that it is his ability to think and decipher the world which made you capable, which also means that your ability to think and your ability to make your own self capable wasn't good enough. That is why it's a very difficult reality to accept and give someone complete credit for who you've become. And people do this. People do give credit to their parents, for example, because it doesn't take away from their being or their reputation or how they're perceived. Like, for example, if I come over here and I say, whatever I am today, it's because of my mom and dad, which is the honest to goodness truth. It doesn't take anything away from me to say that. But if I were to come here and say, whatever I am today is because of this one particular person who happens to be working in the same industry as me, and he's far better than I am. And we are both the same age, or perhaps he's a little younger than me, which makes it way worse. He hasn't lived life as long as I have. And if it wasn't for him, I'd be failing in every metric in life. There's just too much to lose, both from the perspective of how society views you and how you view yourself, because now you have to accept the fact that you're not capable enough to someone, and your thinking wasn't good enough till someone else's thinking had to make a divine intervention and get your life back on track. That is the reason why people don't like giving credit. It's a very well understood defense mechanism. And what they basically want to do is they kind of sneakily take the good information, and then they just want to give themselves the credit. And in some ways, it gives them the illusion of capability. It gives them the illusion that they can think well for themselves. And I think it actually does make them more, it actually does make them more capable. It actually does reinforce some confidence in themselves, because if the source of their confidence was the fact that it's construction of someone else's thinking, that would be too big of a blow to their reality, and they'd never be able to stand on their own 2 feet.
Necessary.
I think that's the whole thing which happens at a deeper level in the brain.
Necessary evil, in a way, for them, for their
Yeah.
own.
Yeah, that's how the world is. I think evil is incredibly important, just as good is incredibly important. Sometimes evil is necessary, and there's absolutely nothing wrong in engaging with it.
Man, God, I'm so glad.
This was a very, very insightful conversation. I think I'm not, like the soy breakdown, people aren't going to watch this, but they should watch this conversation.
So much to learn, man. There's so much to learn. That's the sad part.
Or it's a good part. Or it's the good part. So I was reading and I came across something which made a lot of sense to me. It's that sometimes when you figure something out, which a lot of other people haven't figured out, you still share it. But you share it in a way which you know most people won't get. And it's there are, it's more of a, I hate the term subconscious. So I'm trying to find an alternative for it. But there's a more, it's a, from a deeper level. Someone who's thought about a particular thing and he notices other people haven't thought about it. He can easily share that particular message in a convenient form factor, perhaps in a 5-minute video or even better in a 1-minute reel, which completely changes everyone's perception of reality. And it's that big aha moment.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't want everyone to get that big aha moment because you took your entire life to figure that out. So you might as well package it in a 2-hour long video at 5 in the morning so that it's there. There's some wisdom there, but it's not easily accessible. You don't have to watch the entire thing to access it.
Yeah.
And I feel that's an innate defense mechanism which we all have. I sometimes think to myself, that entire trypsin inhibitor story, I think I can do a 5-minute video and condense that information. But no one else has done it. And as soon as I put it out there in a 5-minute video, now everyone's got it. Let the 1-hour video be. I guess I've not actively thought about it, but perhaps at a deeper level, it's a way of my brain protecting my intellectual property and not making it as easily accessible as it can become, and then it will be taken advantage of, and it will.
There are going to be people.
I have to give credit. I'm sorry to cut you off here. Take Lyle McDonald, for example. Take that entire term, flexible dieting. I make it a point every time I share something at ADU. If there's an originator, someone said it before me, I'll always give credit. So many people do not know. Okay, you can poke fun at flexible dieting. I'm most certainly not a fan of flexible dieting. So many people do not know that Lyle McDonald came up with flexible dieting, and now he's viewed as a crazy person, which he is to some degree. But no one knows that, and I feel in many ways he's bitter and resentful because he just sees a lot of other people taking the same book which he came up with, then taking that same title and publishing another book. I've seen his own mentees do protein books, do flexible dieting books, and he's the one who came up with the protein book first. He's the one who came up with the flexible dieting book first. And his mentees are looked up to more than Lyle is looked up to. So, these innate defense mechanisms are there. Smart people have to do what they have to do to be difficult to understand or have maybe present their message in a form factor which isn't very accessible.
Yeah, because if you made it easy for everyone to access, you just have people ripping you off, financially and in terms of your content as well.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure there are many people out there. I mean, that's how it was. Like I mentioned to you, right? People just waiting for someone to come up with content for
Yeah.
to rip off.
Yeah. That's why I feel it's so important that you got other gigs going on in life. I feel one of the most important parts of my day is football. Because after I play football, I really don't care. Because every day I get people sharing someone's post who's either written like me, who's promoting his own course like me, or he used to be on good terms with me, now he isn't, who's speaking behind my back. I'm playing football. I've got a few businesses outside the fitness industry. And honestly, if people rip me off and they don't give me credit, I'll fight back. I'm a little combative in that sense. But if it happens, there's so much more to life. There's football to enjoy, and there are many avenues to make money and live a good life. So at least from that perspective, I feel the curse of I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, by the way. Let me just put it out there.
But you're pretty damn
I think
smart. I'll give you that. You're pretty damn smart. You're the smartest, probably the smartest in the Indian landscape. I'll give you that.
Come on, man. Not in the Indian
entire fitness
landscape.
industry.
In the entire fitness industry, because see, we don't choose people. We don't choose people. Smart people don't choose the fitness industry to make a career. Now, eventually they will, because they'll realize, wait a second, I don't have to go to Google or Microsoft or Amazon or Tesla. Or NASA. I can do what Aman Duggal did and maybe start my own course and maybe a bunch of courses. It's not a bad way to make some money. But I feel, because I've got some other interests outside of nutrition and exercise, it kind of protects me from those inevitable realities which will come to haunt me. But I feel I'm a little immune to the haunting, because fine, you took my course. I know, for example, there's one mentorship where everything that I've shared at ADU is just being regurgitated there. Cool, man, do it. It's fine. I have to go play football. So that's a perspective which I thought I'll just share. I don't see myself getting bitter too easily. Of course, I think I will, and then I'll come back and say, I said I won't get bitter, but I am bitter now. But I think you should have different things happening in your life so that you aren't just super duper invested in this one toy, this one baby, which has the potential to disappoint you.
There's not silver lining. I mean, to this, right? The reality is, if there were more copies of you running amok in the industry would be a much more intellectual place, right? If there were more carbon copies of you, perhaps, running amok. But unfortunately, you've not yet gotten to that point in human history where we make carbon copies of people and set them free and unleash them into the world, right? There's only one you, right? And as great as you are with what you do, there's still limited influence. Okay, there are morons out there with 1 million views and 1 billion views, and the world deserves so much better, right? They should, like I said, they should be watching your content with Soy, right? But there's some YouTuber on roids, has an impressive physique, and we have kids who are simply enthralled and enchanted by how ripped, how aesthetic this person is, and they're just simply soaking up his content. And there's only one you, right? And it's a battle, of course, right? And it's a battle that, frankly, we want more people to learn this content. We want more people to be critical thinkers. But unfortunately, right, we still haven't got to a point where our content is viral, right? The silver lining here that I'm getting at is, okay, someone ripping you off, it's not going to be 100% in the style that you've delivered it. Let's assume it's a complete copy. The style's never going to be the same. The charisma, I mean, there's no dispute about it. It's not going to be delivered in the same fashion, right? There's no question about it. But the fact that someone is still getting access to that information, which is better than the weird stuff out there, I mean, that's still a silver lining, because I'd like to phrase it that way. If there were people, if there was Aman Duggal.
Sorry to cut you off. We're closing in on the 2-hour marker.
Oh,
We've
man.
got 15 seconds remaining. We'll conclude this conversation in part 3. We'll do another one. I would like you to finish.
Part 3, 6 in the morning. So for those of you wondering what I do at 3 in the morning, I'm usually catching up with my programs, and most of my laptop work happens at 3 in the morning. But we're speaking to Alan Baptist today, and he's here. We're having a conclusion in part 3. He's unable to join. Except go live with Alan Baptist. All right then, part 3.
Awesome. Is this perhaps your longest live session, if I may ask? Is it?
Just give me a second. My headset is reconnecting.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, is this perhaps your longest live session? Because, I mean, it's 2.5.
I've done really long sessions. I think I'm pretty sure I've done longer sessions. Some of them have some of them have been north of 4 hours long.
Damn, that's crazy. Classes are pretty long, right?
Sorry?
The classes tend to be long as well, what I've heard.
Yeah, that's something I intend to change in this year. Alan left, dropped off. So, as I was mentioning, that one of the things I intend to change in 2023 are the length of my classes. And by the way, I'm going to put this out there for those of you watching in the morning. If any of you want to take these videos and edit out snippets for me, training to failure debate, well, you need to get me an opponent. I'll be more than happy to do a training to failure debate. Let's add Alan. I think we have a lot of snippets here. We can make a lot of reels from this conversation and some of my other live sessions also. So I was just inviting someone from our viewership to perhaps edit out some content and make me reels from these live sessions so that we go viral too.
The last
And then
really edit out of our conversation was just you calling it X's out. That was the edit I got.
there was a very specific reason for that. I particularly went to that point because I'm pretty sure this happens to you as well, or maybe it happens to me to a greater degree because I'm always embroiled in some controversy or another. Every day, I get requests, debate this person, debate that person. So my Instagram inbox is very entertaining. It's been very entertaining since 2021, since I started having these debates and these online arguments and fights. Over time, what happened was, and these are people I've never met before. That's the beauty of these little online relationships which I've developed. These people have become my informants. They are either part of some academy or they're part of some friend circle, and they also happen to like me, and they get to speak to me, and they just keep me updated with what's happening at Fitter, at some other company, at some other academy, in some circle or another. And unfortunately, one of the themes which just keeps getting repeated over and over again, I get like 2 of these every month. So someone speaking about your ex-girlfriend or your ex-girlfriend or your ex-girlfriend or maybe your current girlfriend. Are you seeing this girl? Are you seeing that girl? Were you in a relationship with this profile? Because they were talking about how your relationship ended. And the last I got was my sex life being discussed in a team meeting of these evidence-based practitioners, apparently. So it's weird. And the problem is, see, I know everyone likes gossip, okay? But those of you, and again, no one's going to watch this video. I'm going to clip this out, okay? So this is going to be one of the clips which I get. Those of you who are part of the meetings and my personal life gets brought up, why do you have smiles on your faces when my personal life gets brought up? Some of them are my students. Some of them are people I had good relationships with. And then some of them have randomly blocked me. It's just weird. And then why have they blocked me? Because they found out something about your personal life. Like what? So it's strange. Actually, it isn't strange. I know why people do it, but that's why I put it out there. I put it out there so that people know that I know what's cooking, and it's to discourage them from cooking rumors or continuing to spread rumors, because after a point, I'm going to have to do something about it. And I'm not motivated to do anything. It's not like I'm going to gain anything by doing something. So I don't want to reach a stage where I have to confront you all or heckle you all to stop speaking lies behind my back. If it was the truth, I would say don't even speak it behind my back. Tell everyone, tell the entire world the wrong I've done. Lies, rumors, and of course you have to be careful about these things because they have the potential to color people's lenses, and yeah, and then these things get spread, and before you know it, a large section of the population starts believing these stories about you. And they're very believable. I'll say something because of my avatar, my hostile avatar. It's very believable that I may have engaged in something crazy outside of the online space. So that's why I'm trying to go out of my way to just put it out there. Listen, I haven't done this. And if I have, and you have evidence that I've done some made up fairy tale which you've cooked up, bring it to the table. I'll be the first one to accept my mistake and tell the world that I was in the wrong here.
About that, there were plenty of people who tried to sway my perception about you, right? And the evidence they cited was, oh, look at his online behavior. Oh, look at the way he behaves online, right? It's a dead giveaway. There's something off about him. He's crazy, right? He's a lunatic. Look at the way he behaves online. Now, being the skeptic that I am, there were giveaways that, this guy writes brilliantly well. In the fitness industry, writes bloody well. Okay. He speaks incredibly well. There's probably more to the story. Now, most people wouldn't really think in a multi-dimensional way that I did. So it's very easy to color their lenses. So you're right. I mean, before this goes out of hand, you would have to take some precautionary measures or reactionary measures, right? Whatever it is that's being spread about you. And whoever's watching this, right, they deserve to know. And I don't even think you're too overqualified to be in this industry, right? That's what I personally feel. That you're far too overqualified, and you're doing. I don't know for what reason you're here. Perhaps there's a passion for aesthetics. Perhaps once upon a time when we're all young, we have our tussle, or we have our experiences, fair share of experience with bodybuilding. It appeals to us when you're young, probably that. And I don't probably if you would reveal why, because I think you're too overly qualified to be here, right? I mean, in this industry that's completely broken from an intellectual standpoint, where at times I'll have to admit, I get tired of the questions that I get. Because they're not even intellectually challenging. You get questions like, which way is the best way to buy? Really? Are these the type of questions I'm supposed to answer, right? I've even gotten to a point where, after being inspired by EDU, I've just picked up these FAQs, I've just recorded it, and it's out there. If anyone asks me these questions, I'm like, it's already recorded. can take a look. But yeah, I mean, how do you even operate in this industry, which is someone as highly intellectually capable as you? I'm sure there must be a downside. How does it feel being you in this industry?
It's quite evident, right, why I operate in this industry. Take a guess.
Because it's convenient.
It's not convenient. I feel it's um, every ambitious, aggressive man's inherent desire to reach the top. And I was having this discussion with one of the students at another course I teach, weapons. And we speak a lot about business and the current economy and how you can take advantage of it. And we spoke about money as the motivator. And then he brought up the fact that as much as he tries, he can't make money the motivator for him. It just doesn't feel like this object which he needs to relentlessly pursue. And I told him that's true. After spending some time thinking about it, I said it's not money that you deeply desire. It's what money can afford you. It's power. And of course, I can navigate my way to other industries, which I already do, by the way. I just think it's a smart thing to do. If you identify opportunities in other industries and you can add a source of revenue to your other sources of revenue, why shouldn't you, especially in today's climate where you don't know if the government is going to intervene and maybe initiate another lockdown, and at least the online spaces are pretty safe for the most part, but still, you want to safeguard yourself. So
Yeah.
I do dabble in other industries, but the reason I am in the fitness industry is because I feel powerful in the fitness industry. And there is no greater high than venturing into an industry, speaking my mind, saying whatever the hell I want to say, challenging whoever the hell I want to challenge, and getting away with not just rights, but also wrongs. I've legitimately floated with things and statements which tickle the law, let's just say that. And I've been able to successfully defend myself so far, in spite of the fact that multi-million-dollar companies have hired the finest law firms to show me my place. A lot of people don't like me, and they've spent months trying to break down my information. One story about an American gentleman who tried to debate me, of Indian origin, by the way, Nikunj Patel.
Yeah.
He spent the whole of 2021 preparing for the debate with me, with a bunch of his friends, and thanks to one of my informants, he let me know that these people are prepping him up, motivating him. That guy knew everything about me when he was speaking. So there are these large organizational endeavors to heckle me, and not just heckle me, but challenge me and debunk my information and confront me and finally show me my place. And they are yet to be successful. It feels good to be in that position wherein I can defend myself from many different avenues and I can reach my financial goals in spite of not being very gracious with my conduct, and to challenge the current status quo as far as nutrition and exercise academia is concerned. It is power which I cannot experience in any other industry. And the thing about power is once you experienced it, you want to continue experiencing it. So you want to keep doing what it takes to maintain that power. I'm very driven by maintaining this flawless track record I have of being always right. And if I have to be wrong, then I will in all likelihood call out my own wrongs. And even when I'm, let's say, a little wrong in perhaps judicial aspects, there I have access to people who can bail me out there. I look out notices for me in every major airport in the country. So people have gone out of their way to have me behind bars, to mess with my reality. They've cooked up rumors. They have done so much. And here I am, 6 in the morning, speaking to you. Fit as a fiddle, by the way, which a lot of people think that, around 3 or 6 in the morning, I have one of these mental health attacks. People think this. They think I'm chronically depressed. I'm a mad person. There's just so much. There have been just so many attempts to
Discredit.
to show me my place, to discredit me and show me my place. And they haven't worked. And it feels good to know that they haven't worked. And I understand why these attempts have been made. It's not pleasant to have someone intelligent, articulate, confident, and confrontational who claims to be always right in an industry where everyone would like to participate. But here comes someone who claims that his word is divine and his word is final. It's not pleasant. It's insecurity inducing at its finest. So I understand why everyone is making their best attempt to either discredit me or accept my authority initially and then back down and find ways to disassociate themselves with me, disassociate themselves from me. But the fact that I can still stand my ground, still claim my throne, and still move forward, it's a high unlike any other. And I feel every man should experience it in some capacity. You should experience both highs and lows. And men have a lot of opportunities to experience that. A sport gives you an opportunity to experience that. But I also feel that it has the potential to spoil me. And I genuinely would like to experience lows. So one of the things which I go out of my way to do, by the way, I thought today we were going to have a debate when you reached out to me. I thought that maybe there's something which you may have disagreed with me on about soy, and I don't mind. That's the impression I got, or maybe you wanted to clarify the comment with regards to masculinity. So I thought we may have an argument. This is my deepest desire and my wish. I really want someone to show me my place in a debate. And people think that debates are, come on, man, what is a debate? It's competition. Okay, in academia, that is competition. Yeah. Life is all about competition. On the football field, there's physical competition. When it comes to academia, when it comes to an intellectual pursuit, there is no finer way to compete with someone else than to engage in a war of words. So those of you who are turned off by the idea of debates, firstly, you aren't turned off because you find them very interesting. Everyone watches them. And secondly, you're just turned off by the idea that there is competition and you're expected to meet these standards. And I feel debate culture is very important. There should be more of it.
Everyone should lose. I mean, okay, lose a bit, man. No one wants to
Yes.
lose. I think the problem is no one wants to lose.
I'll admit it for the first time. It's my deep desire to lose a debate because I think that loss is going to take me to another level. I feel too comfortable in the fitness industry. I mentioned it in the Soy Collab breakdown also. This is becoming a little too easy, and I'd love for some gentleman from maybe another country, wherever, someone who's viewed as an authority figure. Come on, man, let's show me my place. Show me what you know, your special knowledge, and just humiliate me. It's going to light a fire inside of me and it'll take me to another level as far as my intellectual pursuits are concerned. So that's the reason why I'm very I get very excited when there's an opportunity to engage with someone in a confrontational setting. That's why as soon as you dropped me a message and you said, I would love to speak about this live, and I said, right now, here we are, we're speaking right now. We're not debating though, but we're still speaking.
See, I think this whole debate, losing a debate thing, I don't know how to phrase this. Okay, I'm decent with what I do. Okay, I'm not claiming to be the best communicator in the world. Obviously not. There's much I have to learn, right? But let's put it this way. Statistically speaking, based on my experience, there have been times where I've had to voluntarily concede in debates where I didn't have to, and they've been with women. Right?
Oh, do you know my number one rule when it comes to interacting with women? Never argue with women. Never ever engage in arguments with women. It's a rule, and the women in my life also know this rule. And by women, I mean all of them, including the women in my family. They all know this. As soon as the potential of an argument begins, or as soon as I say something and there's an argumentative response in return, I say, you do not have permission to argue with me. You can't argue with me. My partner knows this. Everyone knows this. You cannot argue with me. If you're a woman, you can't. Because the likelihood that your emotions are going to come in the way, and then you're going to get upset, and you're going to waste my time in the argument is just far too high. Call me sexist, call me misogynistic, but this is a golden rule of my life. I do not argue with women, ever. Now, I may argue with a woman here for entertainment's sake so that I can immortalize her in the form of a video which we'll save on YouTube. But outside of that, I just don't argue with women ever. I love to argue with men because I think when men are having arguments, they don't perceive those arguments in a negative connotation. For women, arguments just become fights.
Yeah.
And they're not worth it at all.
You just get incredibly out of hand. And then you realize that, at that point, you're better off just apologizing to save the relationship. Because at that point, the logic, critical thinking goes out the window, right? Becomes completely
Why would you
explosive.
apologize if you're not wrong? Why would you apologize?
I'm saying most men do. I don't. But I'm just saying, when it comes to all of these things, they just want to get done with it, right? And for most people, that would mean, again, this is for most people, that would mean losing their ability to get laid that night, which they wouldn't want. Hence the apology. I think for men like me or you, that wouldn't be a problem, but not really something that I would say here. But I
get why it's a problem. And there again, see, at the end of the day, you need to come from a place of abundance. Just like with money, if you don't mind losing a little money, because you come from a place of abundance, when it comes to women, you should also come from a place of abundance so that you don't mind losing a little bit of pussy because you've got too much of it. And I know I'm spending time on this particular topic, perhaps longer than necessary. But I just love saying this one line to women. You are not allowed to argue with me. Why can't I argue with you? Because you do not have permission to argue with me. Because your brain is too small. It's been proven. So it's one of the most delightful things that happen, and they try their best to have an argument with me. I'm not arguing with you. Why? Because I'm always right. Remember the last time you tried having an argument with me, what ended up happening? You realized that I was right. I'm always right. You're always wrong. You do not have permission to argue with me. Do not argue. Your brain is too small. For everyone who's listening, any men, try this out. It takes care of everything. It truly does.
It does, man. It does. And again, these are things that should be taught. Again, there are no teachers teaching this.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, it felt great. And the silver lining that I was getting at, which I couldn't really say, I would just like to phrase it that if there were clones of you, right, probably the education, the way it is currently in the industry would be much better. So we just have to take solace in the fact that we have people attempting to emulate you, and at probably a 10% or a 20% capacity, right? They're probably, relaying your information, which is original to you, and they're probably blundering it a bit. I'm not even, okay, they're probably blundering it a bit. But that's as good as the world can get at this point. There's only one of you, right? Wish there were more. But these people, I mean, that's one way of thinking about it, right? That at least people are getting a suboptimal form of your intended education. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
People like suboptimal these days, apparently.
Oh yeah, I went on a rant at my first lecture of 2023 at ADU about the suboptimal argument and why that's a complete catastrophe. It's one of the most foolish things I've ever heard about people who try to criticize optimal methods by claiming that there are special situations which have no other option but to gravitate towards the suboptimal method. No one who's made an argument for optimization has ever claimed that if you do not have access to the most optimal method, that you can't train on that particular day or you can't eat on that particular day. Obviously optimal given the circumstances. So there's a lot of straw manning which tends to come about a lot of straw manning which tends to come about. Unfortunately, sometimes it comes from my own students, and then I said it in the first lecture of 23. Said if you hear any of my students make a case for suboptimal methods, I disown them. They're not my students anymore. So I've not taught that, because then people bring that information to me and they're like, so, but you taught this. This guy is saying suboptimal is better. And he's using an Alex Viada comment to make a case for suboptimal is better. Alex Viada is another one who comes across as incredibly pretentious, by the way. But
what happened to the debate challenge that he accepted? What about that?
Oh, that was for everyone except me. That was a condition. Alex Viada's like, here's a new series I'm doing. It's titled "Prove Me Wrong," where anyone can come, and here's this Google form, which he didn't send himself. He sent his assistant. And then she had a big conversation with me, and first Alex blocked me, and then his assistant also blocked me. I filled up that form. Said, here are the topics we can disagree on. Pick any one, and I'll be there. And never heard from him. Never ever heard from him.
That's crazy. One of the things that I've wondered about you is, I'm not really sure if this has been asked in ADU, that What's your stance on, like, are you agnostic atheist or agnostic? Like, what is it? I mean, man like you, where do you stand on that matter?
Well, I'm definitely not religious. I don't believe in God. Um, I do think that it's important. I think it's better for most people to believe in God.
Yeah.
I just think it makes life easy, and it's that little shortcut. It gives you religion. I'm not. Most religions have these set of rules which, if you follow to the T, your life will move forward in the right direction
Yeah.
instead of you trying to figure it out yourself. So, and that entire idea that you're being watched over by this divine being, it tends to straighten out a lot of people. But as far as where I am on this, the origin of the universe topic is concerned, I honestly don't know. I try to decipher the Big Bang. Like, I have not spent a lot of time looking it up, but I had made an attempt. And I'm not very convinced with the Big Bang theory as well. Now, a scientist may come forward and claim that, oh, that's because it's too complicated. You don't understand it. I'm willing to understand it. But till I don't understand it, I think the most accurate way of defining my viewpoints on this topic are that I'm agnostic. I don't know, but I don't think it's absolutely crazy for people to believe that there's a divine power which created the universe, because that's the first thing which would cross your mind. It's like, wow, it's vast expanse and I have no idea how it came to be. Maybe there's some greater power which created it. And I don't think it's as ridiculous as what the New Age atheists try to portray. Because
Yeah.
I've not heard any of them make a great argument for, or at least provide a good explanation for how the universe just happened to come into existence.
Makes sense. Because the reason why I'm coming to that is a lot of people claim to be evidence-based, right? And what I notice is even if they're attempting to be evidence-based, it's flawed, firstly. They're not actually evidence-based.
Yeah, it's the
But they tend to be
cool thing to. It's the cool thing to be. So they're evidence
yeah.
based.
And even if you are evidence-based, you seem to be evidence-based with respect to certain concepts that you're comfortable with challenging, you know. But if it comes when it comes to being truly evidence-based, let's say if you had to scrutinize your faith, your beliefs, if you had to scrutinize why you're a non-vegetarian, for example, and to explore the vegan side of the vegan argument, you don't really wish to, because yeah, so you're not evidence-based in that regard. Because if you were truly evidence-based, right, you would be skeptical about most things, right? But I'll see that. So that's why I wonder. I mean, the reason why I admire you so much is you are one of those guys who's truly, as much as you mock evidence-based, right? You're truly evidence-based, like not pseudo-evidence-based. You truly are. And we also like to distance ourselves from the word evidence-based now, because it's just gotten corrupted, that word, you know.
Yeah.
It's just been abused and misused to the point where it just reminds me of the whole feminism narrative. You know, when it started off, it was good, and then with time, it just disintegrated into something else entirely. You know, so evidence-based was good initially, right? The idea was good, but the only person I can say confidently today is who is truly evidence-based is you. As much as you dislike that term, right? It would actually apply to you because you are truly evidence-based in most regards, right? So the only evidence-based professional in the industry calling out the other evidence-based quasi. Pseudo is being used a lot. I want
Yeah.
people to use the word quasi
That's a good one.
evidence-based professionals. Yeah. And one thing I can't get over is we're still living in a time where people misspell, nitpicking about spellings. In this industry, I just started making a post the other day. Stop misspelling lose with a double O with confusing it with lose. When are you all going to learn? Right? And people get offended over that as well. That is how shocking it is, you know. It's gotten to a point where you give people a reality that, you know, a semantic reality, right? Or a linguistic reality, and they don't even want to accept that. So I think to myself that how far has the IQ degraded? It's just gotten to a point.
Yeah, and this is one thing which really grinds my gears as well because we got applications to take care of spellings today. And I'm addressing this topic from the perspective of people putting out content in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
At least to me, it's a big turn off as soon as I identify a typo or a grammatical mistake. It's a huge turn off for me. I can understand it's not a huge turn off for everyone else, but no matter whether or not it's as grave of a turn off for them or not, if someone comes across your content and there's a clear spelling mistake or a grammatical mistake, that is a jab at your authority. It's a jab at your professionalism. And it's the easiest thing to fix because all you have to do is you take your caption, put it on Grammarly or put it on any other, you can put it on Word as well. They have a spelling and grammar check. I just feel that's the cardinal sin which professionals should not commit. And I get very upset when I see ADU students make mistakes in their captions. It just annoys me to another level. I used to call it out. Now I still see it to this very day. I keep reminding them. Just take your stupid caption, put it into Grammarly. Let Grammarly take care of everything. Okay, I get it. I mean, with the advent of smartphones, honest to goodness, I don't think I am as familiar with the spellings of the words which I used to spell correctly. Just because I'm not required to spell them anymore. I just have to type them out, and even if I kind of make a typo, the smartphone corrects it. So I think I may have forgotten some spellings, but
Yeah, same thing. Same with me. You know, when I'm writing a letter officially, when I'm expected to write a handwritten letter, probably a love note or an official letter, let's put it that way, I sometimes get confused. You know, okay, how is the receive spelled? Was the before the I? Okay, what about deceive? Was it the
yeah,
also? Because it gets corrected automatically, right?
yeah, exactly. So I I can understand struggling with spellings from that perspective, but it's still not acceptable to make spelling mistakes because you got your smartphone and you can always check the spelling. It's the easiest way to communicate professionalism. We did speak about how being well spoken and writing well helps communicate to some degree that you're educated and getting your spelling and your grammar right, especially when you've got tools like Grammarly today. And do that. That's helped me immensely. Um, and I still have a long way to go, obviously, as far as putting myself out there on social media, but it does make a difference.
Dude, you deserve to be truly viral, man. I keep saying this, but that's the issue, you know. Uh, there's a cost associated. Making a short snippet or reel it's difficult, right? I mean, in terms of the quality of the content that you wish to put out, because there's just so much to say, right? There's so many topics to cover, right?
Right. It's very difficult to address a claim in its entirety in a reel or sometimes even in a 5-minute video.
I mean, the soy breakdown, just look at it, man. It's just insane. Trying to just break that thing down. There's just so much of it left that you have to touch upon. And in fact, strangely, I was discussing that with a few of my students. You grazed past that discussion on artificial selection and natural selection, right? Most people wouldn't even put in the effort unless they're actively taught to explore what the entire concept is, right? And I keep showing people, bananas, as you know, how they're being cultivated now, and you keep giving this, people keep giving this argument from the naturalistic argument that people keep putting forth. If most people had an idea about how breeding occurs or how the whole process of artificial selection worked, right? The the naturalistic fallacy would also, to a great degree cease to exist, perhaps, right? So even unpacking that, right, the video that you made, there's still so much to be said about. People think that, oh, the videos are too long. I had a student also, complaining that if you break down the sir ने किया है, right, बहुत लंबा है. I told him that, boss, you know what, that itself, right, it can be expanded upon in terms of its volume. At
Yeah.
least 3 times, right? There's so much to be said, there's so much to be learned, right? And y'all are just getting intellectually fatigued with this. This is golden content, man. What's wrong with y'all? And there's a guy out here putting it out for free. So I got really, really emotional. I was like, dude, I have to. And I'm glad that you showed up live, because I wouldn't be in the same mental state, perhaps. Probably, had this gotten rescheduled or delayed, I wouldn't have been as expressive as I am now. It's just the sheer coincidence that you were available, right? I was available. I watched that video at that point, and we connected. And I'm glad that this happened.
I'm glad that this happened as well, Alan. I've not met a man as gracious as you in the fitness industry, honest to goodness. And this is in spite of me barely knowing you. We barely know each other. This is perhaps the fourth time maybe we've interacted,
Yeah.
twice online, maybe twice over the phone, perhaps. And it's incredibly evident to me that you're someone who spends time thinking, and that's rare. It's a rare quality. It's a rare attribute. You're well spoken. You're very well aware of a lot of different subjects, which you need to have some degree of awareness of to appreciate the landscape that is nutrition and exercise science, and the other sciences which intertwine with these disciplines. It's great to see that, and I've if you know anything about me, you know I don't sleep much, and I usually skip nights, perhaps 2 nights in a row, and I'm not my most energetic, active self at this hour. And this conversation has kept me hooked, and it's been one of the most interesting conversations I've had. I hope people glance through some of what we've discussed, and I will most certainly look forward to speaking to you again, because I truly enjoyed speaking to you.
Love you, man. And keep powering through and keep busting more myths for the industry, and gonna make India great again, like they say, or make the fitness industry great again.
Let's see what happens, and all the best to you as well, Alan. You have a new venture. You're doing really well, and more power to you. I'm sure you're going to come up with some breakdowns as well, and I'd love to go through them. And now that I've spoken to you, and I'm looking forward to some of the content which comes from you.
Right. Thank you, Aman. Bye bye. Take care and have a great day ahead. Okay.
You too, Alan. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.